empty death threats. He had people, the Capitol was physically occupied. There was well over $1 million of damage done. I mean, you go down item by item. They had weeks and weeks of mass protests. He had one elementary school where they glued the doors shut, where he was supposed to come and read to the kids. I mean, think of that level of extremism. So this is the standard technique of the fascist left, funded by George Soros, among others, and represents a deliberate effort to radically change American society, no matter what the voters think.
You know what's fascinating about it? Why do I think this only helps Trump?
Well, I think it does help Trump if he is able to communicate clearly that this is a crisis of American democracy. There's a remarkable book by Claire Berlinski, which is called There Is No Alternative, Why Margaret Thatcher Matters. And she points out that in Thatcher's career, they got to a crisis where the coal mining union decided it was bigger than the parliament, and she was literally in a fight over whether or not popular democracy could survive or it would be replaced by union bosses. Well, I think we're drifting towards the same fight. On these college campuses, if you're a conservative, you run a real risk. If you tell the truth about Islam, you run a real risk. If you defend Israel's right to exist, you run a real risk. Now, Donald Trump is bringing to the whole country an aggressive, articulate, risk-taking approach, and he is arousing, and the hard left has now decided to try to apply fascist tactics, and what every city is going to have to decide, and somebody ought to approach Rahm Emanuel about this. As mayor, how does he feel about the fact that in his city, a presidential candidate was blocked from giving a speech? I mean, doesn't the city of Chicago have some responsibility to provide civil order?
In the same city that has seen a record number of murders rising every weekend, as many as 14 people shot on single weekends regularly?
And then remember, on the left, one of the reasons they opposed him was he chose to go to a campus that is largely minority, largely poor, and that no Republican presidential candidate had ever gone to before. And that's a direct threat. I mean, if Donald Trump announced he was going to spend part of the fall campaign in the 20 poorest neighborhoods in America, he would drive the left crazy because they believe they own those people. They are the serfs of the welfare state. We are not allowed to go talk to them. And a Republican candidate who decides that he's going to go talk to them is a direct mortal threat to the machine which dominates the Democratic Party.
Did you see all of the praise? I'm sure you saw the guy that jumped the fence and went after Trump at another event. I mean, the CNN is acting as though this guy is the champion of freedom here when you have a presidential candidate on the stage jumping to rush the stage with a fierceness that this guy had. And I'm sitting there watching all of this, and I'm thinking, this is a very dangerous environment. Now, the left, and even some of these dopey news people I was listening to, that they wanted, well, Donald Trump once said, I wish it was the old days. I wish we could just, take him out. Which is obviously a joke when you're being interrupted again and again and again, and police are taking and escorting people out here. But, Bill Ayers was at this. Does anyone know who Bill Ayers is? Am I the only person in the country that thinks when Bill Ayers, Obama's unrepentant terrorist friend, the head of the Weather Underground, that bombed the Pentagon, the Capitol, and New York City police headquarters, that's a little bit of a problem?
Well, but again, nobody in the news media wants to deal honestly with this issue. You have probably as many as 80% of the political reporters in America are anti-Trump, and are in favor of it doing whatever it takes to stop it. Regard his election with horror. And remember, you'll see these same reporters who say, so you don't think Ayaan Hirsi Ali, a very courageous Somali woman, you don't think she has the right to speak? You don't think that Condoleezza Rice has the right to speak? You don't think that Dr. Ben Carson has the right to speak? And they'll all start equivocating. But the fact is, you now have on our college campuses left-wing fascists who seek to impose their views to cut off all free debate, to drive out anybody who disagrees with them, and they are allied with, heavily funded by George Soros, a series of organizations who are dedicated to imposing their will on the American people. And if, in fact, we end up with a Trump-Clinton campaign or a Trump-Sanders campaign, and Trump is as aggressive in the general election as he has been so far, this will drive the hard left crazy. I mean, they will. The prospect of a Trump victory, because like Scott Walker in Madison, he will represent the end of their world. And that's what people who want real change in Washington better understand. The power structure that has profited from a corrupt system It is not going to go easily. They're not going to go quietly. It is going to be a continuous running fight. So you either decide to relax, let America continue to decay, and tolerate the left imposing its values, or you're in for a long fight that is a lot bigger than Donald Trump.
Let me ask you about the intramural battle, because I think it's now down to the two insurgent candidates, Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. I don't think you disagree with that. And I just had a big battle with John Kasich. He doesn't have a path to the nomination. He thinks that his only path is going through a convention fight. And at that point, if either Trump or Cruz has the most votes, won the most states, has the most delegates, and Republican establishment types try and put in, quote, a consensus candidate and rob it from who wins the most delegates and got the most votes, why do I think that would be an unmitigated disaster? He thinks, oh, no, this will be great. Our kids will see how democracy works. And I'm like, I don't think we're going to be seeing democracy. I think we're going to be seeing smoke-filled backroom deals being made.
Well, I don't think it'll work that way. It could, but I don't think it will. I think that, Governor Kasich, if he can win tomorrow, has a path to the vice presidency, and he has a path to being an influential, maybe the swing person, but not the winner. I've said to people for 5 months, I could imagine getting past Trump, or I could imagine getting past Cruz, but how do you get past both of them? They have, and I wrote this last week at Gingrich Productions in one of our newsletters, between them they've gotten something like 80% of the vote.
In other words, you're saying that there could be a unity ticket in the end.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, you have a couple options. In the end, Trump could win outright. He's the only one who has a shot at actually winning outright.
You don't think Cruz has a shot?
Well, I mean, Trump would have to collapse. We have no evidence of. I mean, when you look at, we'll find out more tomorrow night. But we have no evidence right now of Trump collapsing. In fact, in Florida, he seems to be gaining ground. The polling numbers have him ahead in Illinois and North Carolina and Missouri, and tied with Kasich in Ohio. So let's say that he loses Ohio. He does reasonably well proportionally in Missouri, Illinois, and North Carolina, and he wins Florida, which is a winner-take-all state. He's going to have a huge net number of additional delegates by the end of tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. And if that happens, Cruz can catch up, and certainly Cruz is a very hard worker. He's very smart. He's gone out and organized places that others haven't. He went to Idaho. His father went to Idaho, and they did very well. They swept the delegates, so he's picking off little places. But right now, I would guess the odds are that you're going to have Trump probably somewhere between 40 and 50%, maybe not quite to 50, but above 40. You're going to have Cruz above 30, maybe 35. And then the question becomes, one, can Trump just pick up the extra delegates? Because you're going to have Carson's votes, and you're going to have Kasich's votes, and you're going to have Rubio's votes sitting out there.
You see, but I don't think if Kasich wins Ohio, he's in. And here's the thing, and by all indications, Rubio's going to lose Florida. But here's the dynamic that's going on now. You've got Mitt Romney making robocalls for Kasich in Ohio, and robocalls for Rubio in Florida.
Which, by the way, is hurting both Kasich and Rubio.
I don't think it helps them.
No, I mean, look, this is mindless. And you saw it happen last week. Rubio began to collapse the minute Mitt Romney said something nice about it. Because Romney's the personification of the old order. And people, Romney hurts anybody he stands near because he became radioactive. His speech against Trump was so vituperative and so mean-spirited and so personal that it just reminded people, not only did he lose, but he's a bad loser. And I say that sadly. Mitt would have been much better off to have had a dignified speech saying, here are my principal disagreements. And I just think that, in fact, if Kasich or Rubio asked me, I would have said to him, don't let him do this, because a robocall from Mitt Romney, I had a woman in Alabama say to me, she's in her 70s and she was a moderate and very sophisticated, she said to me, the minute Romney came out, I knew which side I was on. I'm tired of losing. I mean, that's the effect he's having on the Republican base.
No, I just suspect that, for example, we'll learn a lot if by Wednesday, if Marco Rubio loses by the 18 points that he's now down in the Real Clear Politics average poll, and he stays in the race, then that means that he's staying in there because he's there to be disruptive.
Not necessarily.
Come on. He has no path to he can't win his own state.
But if I had 150 delegates, which he has, and I knew that we could be in a situation where come May, 150 delegates might be really valuable. I don't know that I'd just give them up. I might say, hey, boys, come talk to me when you tell me you love me. and sit down, then who knows what he might be able to negotiate.
So, but he doesn't have to stay in the race to do that, does he?
Sure, well, he has. Yeah, he can suspend his campaign, but he can't release his delegates. I mean, the guys who release their delegates lose all leverage.
Agreed. All right.
So so there's a platform fight. There are future considerations.
Last question. Do you have any doubts? Like, for example, I've interviewed Trump, and I interviewed him last week for an hour on Wednesday. And I asked him at one point when he talked about energy independence and the penny plan and healthcare savings accounts and building the wall, I said, is this your promise? Are you really going to follow through? Is this your conservative agenda? And he said, yes. Do you have any doubts about his conservatism?
No, although I don't think he's a conservative. I think he's an anti-left, anti-politically correct American nationalist.
But he's saying conservative things.
Yeah, I think broadly speaking, he may become the most effective anti-left president in modern American history. But he is going to be very different. People should know that. And I think they're going to basically be pretty happy. He's going to take apart the Washington bureaucracy. He's going to stand up to the politically correct movement. He's going to defend American interests better than anybody has since Ronald Reagan. And I think in that sense, I think he is sincere in the direction he's trying to go in for a practical reason. Mm-hmm. He wants to be a historic figure. He wants to do, as a citizen, something that builds on the fact that he's already a billionaire. This for him is the moment to live out his life and to do something real and to help America. And I think that he wants to stick to that. I don't think he's doing this just out of opportunism. I think he sincerely wants to help change Washington.
Well, it's pretty fascinating this year, isn't it? It's unlike any. Are you getting the same feedback I am? I mean, everybody is wired so tight right now.
Well, Cliff and I marvel at how neither of us could have dreamed of this particular year evolving the way it has.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. All right, thank you.